Hey, Amy,
Yeah, one.
it's time.
It's Baseball Shangri-La with Amy Cuevas and Juan Ramirez.
Hey,
You're muted
again,
again.
I muted again. Damn it. All right. Hey, party people. Welcome to another episode of Baseball Shangri-La. She is Amy Cuevas, and I am Juan Ramirez. You know what happened there, Amy? Is I was so cognizant on the mute button because when our awesome theme song by AJ Padilla comes on, it automatically mutes me. Right. So I was like, okay, I'm going to make sure that I'm not on mute when the show starts. And I think I double clicked. So I unmuted and then just muted myself again. So what really sucks is I was going to start off with the show by saying we have no base running blunders. At least I don't have any to begin with, and here I am starting off the show with a base running blunder. How sad is that? Amy, how are you?
I'm good. Hey, I love kicking it off like that. It just shows again that we're human and you guys are really just seriously along the ride with us for this because we're learning as we go.
And so again, I just want to remind everyone, if you guys are new, if you're barely discovering us, because I am starting to see a lot of comments going, wait, you guys have a show? Now is a good time. As you can see, if you're watching us on YouTube, follow us on the social media. On Twitter, you can find us at BB Shangri LA. On Instagram, Threads, and Twitch, we are on Baseball Shangri LA. If you are watching us, make sure you hit the subscribe button. This is a good time to just hit subscribe, and then you'll be alerted every time we drop a new episode because Amy and I are still trying to figure out a schedule, right, Amy?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, like I said, I think in the past, we're trying to commit to at least one episode a week, but as stuff drops, if you guys were paying attention last week, we had multiple episodes. So we're doing our best to bring you guys content.
That's right. As Amy says, we are on this journey and you are coming with us together. So, when we last left you in what is slowly becoming the telenovela of the Doyers, uh, pitchers and catchers had reported. However, they had their first workout on Friday. So, we got some quotes. People actually were starting to talk. But before we go to what people were actually talking about on Friday, Amy, any other important dates that are coming up that we need to know about?
Yeah, so players will be reporting tomorrow. So as of this recording, tomorrow, but February 13th, there will be the first full squad workout on the 14th. So Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day for everybody who loves baseball. And over the weekend, there were a couple people who were missing. So Joe Kelly and Will Smith had not reported yet. They had personal issues that they were dealing with. Dave Roberts mentioned, but Will Smith was present on Monday, hitting in the cages, catching. So everybody is slowly but surely showing up. There, we've even seen, I don't know if you guys have checked social media, but Miguel Rojas left a bottle of alcohol and a nice little note for Yoshinobu Yamamoto. And so everybody's kind of getting there. Which leads us into players are, because they're going to be reporting. Now we're seeing people who might have already been there, Jason Heyward, some of the other guys, they've been hit up for quotes and whatnot. And Juan, I think you actually have some insight into that too.
Well, I love that you're at the news desk. I mean, Amy is totally letting us know, what we missed on the weekend. But you're right. I'm glad that you brought up the bottle of wine thing because so there was I guess Miguel Rojas. They had asked me Miguel Rojas like why you did that, and what I love about this is a direct quote from Miguel Rojas, and that is, "I know what it's like to come from a different country and join a new team." So I wanted to do something to make them feel welcome. It's so interesting because I think the dynamic in the Dodgers clubhouse has changed. We've talked about this before. Like this seems like it's a new era of Dodger baseball. A page is being turned. And I think the players are aware of this. So, but I cannot I can't draw as much. I want to draw I can't speak today. I want to draw as much attention as I can to the fact that Miguel Rojas recognizes, I think it's something that we take for granted, that these guys are coming from a different country. Now, we all know that Shohei has been here for a while. And look, Shohei, I learned over this weekend that at least he knows enough English that he can communicate with Dave Roberts. Now, I don't think they are having in-depth conversations, but he knows enough baseball English that they can go ahead and communicate. But I think much has been said about the chemistry with this team, how much this team likes each other. Those were all the stories that we heard last year. So for them to go ahead and hear this, uh,
And the
did I
note
just mute?
itself, no, you're good. But the note itself was actually really sweet. So if any of you hadn't seen it, I've got it right here. It just says, "Welcome to the family. I'm super excited to be your teammate and play behind you. I've got your back." Like if you came into the locker room and saw something like that, how awesome would that be? Just to get that kind of that support from another team player.
No, and I mean, that's what this was about, right? This is all about bonding. This is why we use spring training, right? And that's for these people to go ahead and get to know each other because again, they are new. There's new routines that are being established, and that's what we're seeing here, right? Is they're all so I think it's great that they were able to do that. Some of the other quotes, I mean, I know we want to get into what Jason Heyward had said, but before we get into what Jason Heyward said, I do want to talk about Walker Buehler. And so Walker Buehler was asked about all this attention that the Dodgers are getting in spring training. And I think it's important. I not important, but I really liked Walker Buehler's response, and that is, um, well, let me see. There's a couple of quotes here. Which is the one that I want to get into? Um, or should we? I don't want to segue from Heyward. But all right, I already started going down the Bueller. Wow, the show's going really to the shit right now. My apologies, guys.
Happy Monday,
Um,
everybody, for
yeah,
everybody.
happy Monday. Uh, okay, so Walker Bueller said this. It's kind of becomes a little bit more like football Sunday every day. I think it's great for us as a team, great for a lot of guys on our team that are going to get more attention for what they do and for our team as well. I think it's good for the game to be covered in this way. We're fortunate to have it here. I think that was a very astute quote by Walker. What did you think there?
No, I agree because for better or for worse, this is what it's going to be. Even I know we're going to get to Otani later, but anything I've seen on social media, you can hear the camera clicks like for everything that he's doing. So it's a little different than what we've I think seen or experienced in the past, even with higher caliber players. Probably not since maybe Fernando Mania. And so it's going to be an adjustment for everybody. But to hear him make such a positive statement when we know things are changing, I think again it goes back to what you were saying a moment ago. It speaks to the quality and the caliber of this team.
But I also think he's just being honest with himself. And it's like, look, this is without coming out there and saying it, like Shohei brings all this extra attention. And we're going to get into this at some point in the show today, but there has always been this conversation that Shohei is someone who transcends the sport. This is why you have so much attention. Like Shohei really is the only national story in my opinion. I mean, is there another storyline in Major League Baseball that you think can be covered on a national level?
So the lack of any noise you hear right now, I know. I'm trying to rack my brain and I don't think so. Everything that I was reading about this weekend, even like the most, even just from an international perspective, is the Yankees are going to be playing in Mexico for some of their exhibition games. But from like a national or even an international level, not really. I mean, are you coming across anything like that?
No, the only thing that happens now is now that Shohei has joined the Dodgers and that Yamamoto has joined the Dodgers now have become a national story because when you're covering Shohei, you are also covering the Dodgers and you're covering Yamamoto. So that's why I think you could fight this. And I think that's what lends itself to the other comments that we heard from Heyward. And that's what I want to go ahead and let's segue into the Heyward comments because first, what I want to start off with this. Did you think it was kind of like shady that poor Dave Roberts threw Jason Heyward under the bus when they asked him? Obviously everybody's there. They want to talk to Shohei. They want to hear about Shohei. We've heard this before. A lot of Dodger players are like, look, I answer more questions about Shohei than I answer about myself. And then Dave Roberts says, well, I think Jason Heyward would be a good player to go to get information on Shohei because Dave Roberts had used the example that he did this for Barry Bonds when Barry Bonds was trying to break the home run record, that he would, in a certain aspect, speak for Barry Bonds. Like, yeah, if
Especially
instead
when
of
other players didn't want to step up to the mic or Barry didn't want to talk, then Dave would take on the mantle. He even said that when you put on this uniform, there's a certain standard and how you go about things. And I don't think he's wrong. I laughed when I was actually watching the interview and he nominated Jason Heyward, but also who better to do that though? Like that's why he got another year signed on with this team is the leadership and his capability amongst the players. So I think if he was going to, whether he picked him, threw him under the bus, whatever you want to call it, I think he picked the perfect person to do it because Jay Hay is going to be pretty positive about it while also being realistic. And I think that's what we saw, right?
No, I mean, I love his response where it's like, of course, the minute Dave Roberts says that, everybody goes running to Jason Heyward. And I will say this, Jason Heyward, I think, is probably one of the more professional clubhouse baseball players because he's always been very respectful when talking to the media. I've never seen any part where he is out of line or anything like that. So, of course, they all go running to Jason Heyward, and then Jason Heyward is like, Shohei is the best guy to talk about Shohei. Now, I know at one point or another that could be viewed as, don't be asking me about Shohei. I don't want to talk about Shohei, but I don't think it came off that way.
I think it
But I,
didn't come off that way though because it's Jay. And now total kind of non sequitur, kind of related. But when they announced that, I imagined like the cartoons that you see where like groups are just running back and forth between people because the media took that name and just like ran with it. But I think it's his follow-up comments that are really what cemented it with him not being like an a-hole out there of like, go talk to him. He's the one to talk to. But you can tell based on the context of those other quotes he's basically saying like Shohei has a job to do. I have a job to do. If I'm not, I'll do my best. But if I'm not available, you know, respect that, but also respect that we will give you what information we can. And I think he went about it in such a balanced way. Like I will help you out to the best of my ability. You still also should go to him, but you know what? We're not always going to be available. So basically respect that. Respect that we're here doing a job.
Absolutely, that I agree with you 100%. I think that is the difference because when they asked him about that, he said, "Look, when Shohei is not available, meaning not available to the media, then that means he wants to do his job. He's preparing for the Dodgers, preparing himself to be in a good mental space, physical space, and I think we can all respect that." And then what I thought was really interesting was when he said, "It's harder if you make it harder." That one did catch my attention a little bit, but then he went on to say, "But if anything, it's what you deal with every season as it is. I understand that you guys will probably like to check in with me on a daily, but you know me by now. Like you said, if I have something I got to do and focus on, then I'll do it. But when I can, I understand that you guys have a job to do as well." So I did find it like, again, he caught himself, but I also think he was just like trying to like, hey, come on, let's be honest here, guys. Don't forget, I'm here to play as well. I'm
I
not
think it was
here.
intentional. I think it was intentional in his part to set that up, but also soften it, in my opinion. Um, so something that this kind of triggered for me, and I'm curious how you feel too. I struggle in the role that we're in because we are fans of this team, but we also cover the Dodgers. So I understand that there is a job to be done, but at the same time, I'm also like, do we really have to bug them? Like either they had a bad day or, this is really a lot for all of them. And so that is one thing walking that line is a fine line for me. of, how much do I just want to let them be because I'm a fan and I understand that they're humans in this game, and then the other part is we have a job to do. What are kind of your thoughts on handling the role that we both have essentially?
It's funny that you say that because I got to tell you, especially with the hitting display that Shohei put on Monday, right? And there was all this footage all over online about. I mean, I think he ended up hitting 10 home runs in 21 swings, and I was just like, I feel like I was so tired of it, to tell you. I was just like, "Guys, really?" It's like the minutia. It's like this guy goes outside and he takes 10 steps and he's surrounded by it. And I'm like, "Is this how it's gonna be all year?" And I go back to what my friend told me, who was an Angels fan, who kept telling me, "You don't know what's coming." And now I'm understanding him. It's this and look, I'm excited about seeing him play. But this constant like need to find, like, examine every little thing he does. I was so over it where I was just like, guys, it's just the guys, it's batting practice. I mean, how many times have we gone to the stadium and we're seeing guys hit shots and shots? I mean, he's a professional Major League Baseball player, and a guy is throwing a pitch right down the middle. There's no movement to it. I mean, he's literally throwing a meatballs, and everybody's like, "Oh my God." Now, I get the reason why they're reacting that way is because he's coming off of surgery. And the
And
reports
and
are
the oblique injury that ended his season last year.
right, and even Shohei himself said, "I wasn't even trying that hard, because he's still taking it easy," which is makes sense. It's the first day of spring training, but I'm just like, part of me was just like that balance of that trying to find information, but at the same time, just let it be. And you know what it was, Amy? I think I got a greater appreciation for this man. For this dude to be able, and I'm going to end up saying a word that I cannot say. I always have a problem saying this word. And I just want to remind everyone, English is my second language. So I may throw to Amy here because I have a hard time. So you finish it off for me,
I
Amy.
got
But
you. I got you.
you know which word I'm talking about, right?
Mm.
Well, we'll find out that Shohei has the ability to part.
Compartmentalize.
Thank you. I don't know why. I can't. I have such a hard time.
There's a lot of
Compartment.
syllables in that one. It's okay.
Oh man. I mean, ESL has failed me, and it has failed me. But just on that one word, I can go ahead and throw out big words like philodendron, but for some reason, I get tongue tied.
Compartmentalize.
Thank you very much. But the fact that he is able to do this, and I mean, he's won the MVP twice, right? And I don't know if this is possible because I wasn't covering him day by day in Anaheim. But to see the amount of crowds that are around him, and the funny thing is I was reading this earlier, like Dave Roberts was talking about him and how he carries himself. That Shohei is a very humble person. He carries himself. I mean, what were his quotes when he first showed up? The first thing he said to the media on Friday was, "I'm just going to treat myself as a rookie." This guy is a two-time MVP. And he's just like, so
But
it
that's what
seems like
makes him a good teammate, though, too, because he isn't bringing this superstar persona with him and then treating everybody else like they're plebeians. Like, you guys are beneath me. Thanks for being on my team. Like, he is coming in humble, so he has that attitude. Plus the intentional way that he goes about his work. Like, it makes it really hard for anybody to say anything negative about him, and especially just you mentioned the amount of coverage that he has, and I was noticing as we got on Twitter, like, there were angles that we don't typically see from, like, a spring training workout. Like, the angle of the camera on the floor in the BP cage, all the cameras around, hearing the shutter clicks of all of the cameras. Like, there were so many different angles of him. I can't remember in years past seeing that many different angles of any of the players. You might get some footage, for the day of spring training, but to see that much. And how long was he out there? They did 2 rounds of BP. He had 21 overall swings, like you said, 10 homers. Like, he can't have been out there for that long. And he dominated the timeline on any of the social media threads.
You're absolutely right. I don't remember any of that happening last year. I mean, there is the excitement always when spring training, when camps open. I know the timeline is messed up a little bit because usually what happens is the Super Bowl happens and then everybody's counting down for pitchers and catchers to report. But this year, because of the Korea series and the early start, the Dodgers and the Padres reported earlier. So we already had that going. So I just don't recall having this, but I think this year is going to be such a fascinating social experiment, Amy, because I just sit there, I'm just amazed that could I do I mean, I completely butchered this show already. I'm being honest with everybody. I suck on this show, okay? I'll make it up for you. Sometimes we have bad days in the office. And what's throwing me off is I got all these damn notes in front of me because I want to get the quotes right. And I cannot do two things at the same time. I cannot walk and chew gum at the same time. So
I
I'm
got your
totally
back on some of these quotes too, so don't worry, you don't have to walk and chew bubble gum all by yourself.
so the fact that Ohtani can do all of this and still, win MVP twice, I'm fascinated by this because like Robert says, he's kind, he's a humble guy, he's focused. Jason Heyward, like he's out there. Gavin Lux, well, they were working out at Dodger Stadium, was so impressed by like Ohtani's work ethic. But yet, he's got a circus around him.
And then you
So
add in the isolation to that because that, like we've talked about on previous episodes, that has to be isolating. You have all of this hubbub going around and like the guy can't even breathe because there's camera clicks going on. Like what's on his arm? What is he using to hit with? Is that a brace? Is there tech involved? Like what is he wearing? Why does he have that thing? Like it's just every tiny little thing is being analyzed, and to have all of those things going on at once would be, for me, overwhelming. But he's handling it. He has been handling it, and so I guess if it was going to happen to anybody, you know he's he's the best person for it.
Exactly. So seeing all this and hearing them talk about this, Amy, I just wonder. I mean, like we've talked about this before, and that is all his teammates in Anaheim. They all thought he was a great teammate. But can Ohtani just be another one of those guys? Like when he's in the clubhouse, like I said, what Miguel Rojas did, I think was great. But it's like when the Dodgers hold events and is Shohei going to show up? Oh, well, Shohei didn't show up. And it's just like, you add Shohei to these, and it's a completely different element. He sucks up the energy. We're already seeing it there in terms of the media coverage, in terms of every player being asked about Shohei. He can't be like everyone else. And this is what I mean by this is a social experiment. So here's my question to you, Amy, because of the fact that you can't treat this guy just like another guy in the clubhouse. I know people have said, well, will this be a distraction for the Dodgers? I have a theory on this, but I want to hear from you. Do you think all this media attention, and I know it's early in spring training, so they're getting acclimated to this because this is how it's going to be, not only I think for the rest of this year, but this is how it's going to be as long as Shohei Ohtani is playing for the Dodgers. Do you see this as being a distraction?
I think it will on some level, but that goes with the price tag of everything that, the fans wanted him as a player. He wanted to come to LA. I think that's the price you pay. It's absolutely going to be a distraction, but I think everybody has a responsibility to figure out how much of a distraction for each of us, right? The players, are some of them going to get frustrated? Yes. I think Dave Roberts even said they're going to have to evaluate it as the season goes on to see what they'll do about it. But I mean, it's par for the course. I think it's built in. Of course, it's going to be a distraction. There's no way to get away from that. It's just how do you respond to it as the season goes on. So, what are your thoughts on it? Because now I'm curious.
Well, it was interesting because Dave Roberts said he was basically asked the same question in terms of all this attention with Ohtani. Would it be a distraction? And Dave Roberts replied with, if you let it. right? But at the same time, I think Roberts conceded that, there could be tension like this if the load becomes too cumbersome, right? If everything is about Otani, I think it's just human nature for people to be like, dude, I don't care. Go ask him. I don't want to keep talking about Otani. I have other things to do.
And
But
do
the
you think
reason
they
why
have that right though, too? I mean, if let's say
absolutely.
you have had your filled as a player, don't you get to voice that?
No, absolutely. But the reason why I don't think it'll be a distraction, I think this is a good thing for the Dodgers because I think what happens with the Dodgers is they're creatures of habit, right? And this is why everybody like hates analytics and all that stuff. It's like every year it's the same thing with the Dodgers. The Dodgers are like a machine, right? It's just like they're going to win the division. They're going to win 100 games. Like everything is the same. And we've always said, stop focusing on the numbers. It's the eye test. It's the eye test. You gotta feel. I think Otani is the variable in all of this. Like I mean, everybody likes to say the Dodgers are a bunch of run by math nerds and all that stuff. Well, you have a variable here that is new. And now I think that is going to be something that's going to help the Dodgers. I think this is why, I mean, you talked about players, the rest of the players reporting on the 13th and the 14th. I think they're already there. We saw Mookie there. I mean, Muncy was already taking ground balls. I think this is all the Otani effect. This is all the excitement that this guy brings. Like, I think the Dodgers always have pressure to win every year, but there is so much pressure for them to win this year that I think the players are responding to it. They're accepting it. There's Walker Buehler's quote. So I don't think this is going to be a distraction. If anything, I think it's going to make them focus on we're going to win. We want to win every day. I mean, we want to be a historic team. I mean, what do you think of that?
And I think that goes back to it being the price of admission. They all probably got talked to about this too. I'm sure the front office talked to them about like, hey, this is what's going to happen if we do end up doing this. So yeah, they know that the focus not only is on Otani, but it's the cameras are going to shift to them too. They're going to be in the background, of a lot of those shots, or just the media's there. They're going to be focusing on, hey, what is Max Muncy doing while he's on the field today? How is Walker Buehler doing? I think that can only, as like a pressure test, it can only make them better. So like, what is it? The quotes about like coal and diamonds. I think they're just going to shine that much more as the season goes on. And I think that you actually made a good point about just how sorry, noise outside. Totally just we are having a Monday. But it's just going to hone their skills. Like I think it is only going to make them better. And I think it is that change, that tweak in the machine that will change that progress that they're making.
I'm glad that you have the same problem that I have, and I can't
Compartmentalize.
Yeah,
Compartmentalize.
I mean, I think that's gonna be the goal for the season if I can say that word. I don't know why, I have a mental block when it comes to that word. If by the end of the season I can say that word freely, I think that would be fantastic.
I think
Um,
we're on Otani media overload today, so our brains are a little scattered.
no, I've always had a problem saying that word. I don't know what it is.
Tried to give you
Well,
an out. Tried to blame it on Otani.
no excuses, no excuses. I hold myself accountable. But one of the other things we also, I mean, I think we lose sight of this, especially with the excitement of the Dodgers signing Otani, but he is still recovering from, the elbow injury and the oblique. So we have to keep reminding ourselves that there is a chance that he might not be ready, not only by the Korea series, but he might not be ready by opening day. However, after the hitting this way, go ahead, Amy.
Gonna say he did say today that he'd be ready for that, but this was one of my biggest concerns coming out the gate of signing him was, from the injury, how is he going to recover? Obviously, he had a really great day today. So, I mean, that's super optimistic for the go forward. I was just going to say like some of the quotes that came out of today were He was being a little careful, but overall, he felt really good. All the swings he took inside the cage felt really strong, and he said, "I think we're past the oblique injury," which is really promising considering he hasn't been able to really do a lot since that September injury, which then allowed him to take that time off for the surgery on his elbow.
And then the other worst kept secret that we found out today, and this is courtesy of Dylan Hernandez of the LA Times, and that is that the Dodgers plan on Yamamoto to start a game in Korea. Shocking. It's shocking that Yamamoto will be pitching in the Korea series. It was, yeah, to answer a long way of answering your question, Amy. I get it. We're covering the team. We're all Dodger fans. We want to get as much information as we can. But there today really just felt like a day where it was too much. Where it was just like the guy took batting practice. And you're right. The different angles that I saw, the different videos of him just batting practice, like the whole point of batting practice. Have you ever hit off of a pitching machine? Every pitch, well, at least if you have a good one. Back in the day when I used to go to the Camelot, you didn't know where the pitch was coming from the pitching machine because the thing was built in 1970. So you could have gotten one on your at your head, another one down at your knees. But I mean, the guy's pitching him and grooving him right down the middle. This is designed just to help him work on his swing. And he wasn't even trying that hard. But the reaction, I just kept saying to myself, slow news day, slow news. We have to create content somehow, right, Amy?
Well, and even Yamamoto, so he had 2 bullpens. So he had one Friday, and then he also had one on Sunday, and I think the front office came out for the Sunday one, and then but it not overshadowed. I don't want to use that word, but like any images that you saw of him Sunday, it was all based on Ohtani coming out to watch him. So it wasn't even really solely focused on like, hey, check this out. He's having his second bullpen. Look at he's hitting all the spots. It's Shohei in the background watching him, looking pleased with how he's performing. Um, I, I hope these guys don't get outshined. I don't think that's Ohtani's intention. I think that's something that the media will have to be responsible about of, hey, making sure there are other guys on the team, like just reporting some of that other stuff too, whether it's a slow day or not. These other guys deserve some attention as well, and they deserve not to be put under a microscope for Ohtani.
I don't think this is going to, in terms of the number of people covering, I don't think this will continue throughout the season just because there's going to be limited space. Right now, because they're in Arizona, and if you haven't been to Camelback Ranch, I mean, that place is huge. So you do have the ability to have more media just roam the grounds, and there's a lot of space. But once these guys are at Dodger Stadium or some other major league ballpark, you can't just let everyone in and show where we won't. I don't think we'll get as much coverage as we're getting now. It is just the beginning of baseball. So there is that level of excitement, but it does seem to be just dominated by Shohei. And then you have Yamamoto to the point where I don't know if you were aware of this, Amy, but I found this very surprising. Walker Buehler put on weight. Like he put on muscle. Walker Buehler he weighs 205 pounds right now. And he said he's never pitched over 185. And the reason why he put on the muscle is because he had to put a little weight around it and to try to protect his arm or the elbow, so to
Yep.
speak. And so I found really interesting this quote, and I want to make sure I read this because for those of you that are listening on the audio portion, so this is from Walker Buehler. You get to the big leagues and have any sort of success. I think it's hard to change anything. You want to do what you got there or whatever. You get hurt twice the way I have. Sometimes you got to figure something else out. I think the athleticism in my delivery or whatever you want to call it has gotten me to where I am. So put on weight and try to keep that, I think makes a lot of sense. What I found really fascinating about that is, again, I think we've talked about this a lot. There's a lot of pitchers. I mean, James Paxton's whole contract had to be restructured because when they took his physical, all of a sudden something came up, and we take physicals for granted. So because of that, now luckily it wasn't anything that related to his arm. It's just other types of injuries. But when I hear that for Walker Buehler, it's always fascinating to me when I hear an athlete acknowledge their mortality. And like when he says, I've been hurt twice. It's like this is already in the back of his head. Like when you start the season and the competition, that level of competition is so high. You have to have the utmost confidence in your ability. You cannot have any semblance of doubt in you because I feel, at least from hearing elite athletes compete, they always say you can't beat yourself. Or how many times do you see people on the side like, hey, we're beating ourselves, we're beating ourselves. What were your thoughts on the fact that Walker Buehler bulked up, and in a sense he is aware that for me it sounds like, look, there's a chance I may not go back to the Walker Buehler that we saw in 2018, the guy who was supposed to be the new ace.
But that's the danger with anything. Like we treat these players like they're just baseball cards, but they're humans. We're dealing with that mortality with Kershaw towards the end of his pitching career. And it's interesting. You just mentioned a few moments ago about like kind of changing things up, not being the machine and going through the motions. This is changing something up for Walker. When I was in that Joe Kelly meet and greet, he mentioned like he was at times in his life, he's been told to bulk up and put on extra muscle because that's what's going to help. And he's found for him actually, just doing what's best for his body in the moment, whether that's trimming down or putting on weight, he tends to like bulking up doesn't do anything. And he actually gets more injured that way. So I think it's really these players too. Like people can give all of the advice that they want, but they've also got to trust their bodies too. And I'm curious, with as much as we rely on analytics, how often do they really get to do that? Of like, okay, well, this is the prescribed thing. This typically works for everybody. Do they ever have any of that doubt of like, well, I kind of know my body and I don't think that's really going to work for me. Or, you know what, let's just do it and see what happens. That's putting a lot of trust in any process, or even trusting yourself, because like you said, they get one shot. There's somebody who's always waiting to come up and take their spot. That's the way it is in the minors. That's the way it is in the majors. That's how some people's careers are built. Somebody just happened to be injured and they got called up and they got to stay. So every decision, it's so important in this game, and there's got to be like pros and cons to everything, and I can't imagine the pressure that they're under. So if he's going to try this time around, I really hope it works for his body. But you're right, he may not be pitching the way that he did when he was trimmer, a couple years younger, second Tommy John surgery. So all of that's going to factor into what happens when we eventually see him on the field this year.
I do think you're right in the sense that there is a level of trust that players put into organizations, and they're willing to try, or maybe not necessarily organizations, but maybe other trainers. Like I remember when Mookie went vegetarian, and he was just like, the next year he went back to eating meat because it was just, he felt, I don't know if it's just a strength thing, but I do think players, because there's always the need to get better, right, are willing to try new things. So I'm excited to see Buehler. Like I said, we talked about this in previous episodes. If all these guys do what they're supposed to do, there's not going to be enough spots for everybody. So I am curious to see how the Dodgers play this out. I do want to wrap up this episode with a topic, and curious if you saw any of this and what your reaction is to this, Amy. But there are a lot of people that are upset with these new Nike jerseys. Like, I have never, this has been rumbling for a while, and I've just completely just poo-pooed it. I'm still pissed off that they got rid of the road jerseys with the white piping, because to me, that was the Dodgers road jersey. That's the one I have. I have my throwback Valenzuela, and it's the road jersey, and it's because I love the piping, the white piping around the Dodgers lettering. But have you seen these new jerseys, these new Nike jerseys, and are you aware of the controversy that is brewing as a result of it, Amy?
I have, and I think this is where some of my takes don't have I don't want to say the same weight, but there are certain things I guess I just give credence to and others that I don't. The jerseys, like, we can't change it. Like, do I like that it's split at the D? No, I don't think it looks good. But at the same time, like, if I have to get a new jersey, it's not like I can go somewhere else and get one if I want an authentic one. I don't know. I guess it ki so it feels a little like people are getting very emotional about this, and I feel like sometimes, certain types of fans get labeled as emotional, so it's always interesting to me when across, like, baseball, certain takes are very emotional, and I don't I'm like, "Eh, it's a jersey." Like, I have many. I loved the Majestic ones. It switched to Nike. I couldn't do anything about it. So, unfortunately, we're in the next iteration of whatever Nike's doing to save money, and we're either gonna buy them or we won't, but I mean, if you wanna at Nike and complain, go for it. I don't know, what's your take on
Amy, stop talking in code and tell me what you really feel. Like, I mean, come on.
it?
I mean, you're sick and tired of these people bitching about the things that are not important.
I mean, to us, but who am I to judge what's important to them? So that's why, like, to me, it's a non-stance to me because I personally don't care about it. But to other people, it may be something that's important. So who am I to judge how they're feeling about that? Like, if these people are upset about it, they can be upset. I don't know. Why are you upset or are you not upset?
I'm not upset, but I think I'm finally seeing what everyone else is talking about because they do look a little bit different. But I
Mhm.
agree with you as well. I mean, I think you are 100% like, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? I mean, there's nothing we can do about it. But the overlap once you get close to it, yeah, that looks weird.
It looks
Where it
janky.
breaks.
Bottom line, it does look janky. Like that's where you decided to split it because you couldn't. There was no way for you to center it better. Like that sucks. But again, like what are you gonna do?
I mean, the uniform I think looks awkward. And I get it that I think what Nike was going for because mine is a Majestic, and I feel the fabric on these new jerseys, and they're much lighter, they're more flexible, but the fact that the numbers are smaller, but I think this is more noticeable when you're comparing it to the old jersey, right? But maybe to the trained eye, you're so used to seeing something a certain way, it does throw you off when you see that the number, and this is going for all the jerseys. It's not just the Dodgers, because I saw the Yankees road jersey, and I think they got rid of the white piping also on the Yankees road jersey where it says New York, and it seems like, I
Is
mean,
it
you
supposed to
have.
make them more aerodynamic? Are they gonna run faster? Like, I'm curious what the like the is it really just cost savings and time savings or like come on, I want some benefits. They need to be able to fly around those bases now if we're gonna change the fabric and all this stuff.
Look, I've seen people, they're complaining about the fact that it's not the actual white, the wedding gown white, I guess is what they call it, that it's more of an off white. And so when people think off white, they think of the cream, like the Giants
Mm.
home jersey is a cream. Look, it's not like that. It's somewhere between, as they called it, the wedding gown white and then the off white. I mean, the cream it's the off white. And so it's becoming very like, I guess the more I hear people talk about it, I guess the more I then see it. But it's like what you said, it's like it's so true. What are we gonna do about it? Look, am I one of those guys? Look, for the longest time, those jerseys are expensive. Okay. A lot of people spend a lot of money on those jerseys. So I'm perfectly fine going to giveaway nights at Dodger Stadium. A lot of the Dodger gear that I have is straight from giveaway nights because I just don't want to keep spending that much money to buy Dodger gear. And I think, hey, it's a great deal. I get to go watch the game and I get a shirt out of it, or I get a replica jersey on it. Yeah, it's totally cheap material, but whatever. But I just find it fascinating that some people are just to the point where like you're ruining this, and it's just like, relax, man, take it easy.
And but maybe for them that it is ruining it. Who know? Maybe they invest in a lot of these, and I think that's where for me it becomes a. It's not important to me, but I respect that it might be important to you out there. You know, who am I to say that's not an important topic for somebody?
Well, let's end on this, Amy, and I want your opinion on this because I value your opinion. But What do you think of those dudes like myself, these non-athletic dudes that wear jerseys to sporting events? Is it a turnoff for you, or it's just like, hey, bro, do you play for the team? Because I have to tell you, I decided, you know what? I'm only going to wear throwbacks. I'm going to wear a throwback jersey because it's to another era. Because there was a time I have a couple of like pseudo jerseys. They're not real jerseys, and I ended up personalizing them. And now I don't know if I feel secret shame, but I'm kind of embarrassed that I did that. Why are you looking so confused? Do you not know what I'm talking about?
Well, I feel like I don't know. I'm waiting to see where this goes. So we're talking about any jersey, current players, your name personalized, throwback jerseys,
Yeah,
and
where
wearing
do you
any of it?
stand on guys, fans showing up to the stadium wearing jerseys?
Dude, I do it. I have one with my last name on the back. I have current players. I have past players. I have players who are no longer on the team but are still current players in the MLB. Like, I bought it. I paid that money. I'm gonna wear it. And if somebody wants to come shame me, like, go take it somewhere else. Like, why are you don't have to wear a jersey, but I paid for this. I'm gonna wear it. So no shame here. Did you pay for it? Did you steal them?
I need to get more friends like you. I guess my elitist friends are the ones that make me feel this secret shame that I'm just like, hey, bro, so what time are you showing up to game time? You know, are you playing today? And it's just like I said, I all
I'm
the
the person
jerseys.
who says we, like I'm part of the team. Like, well, when we signed this player, I'm not even in the front office. I'm not even affiliated with the Dodgers. So yeah, I will never judge you for that. You can come sit with me.
I appreciate that. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of Baseball Shangri LA. I want to thank everyone for their patience in putting through this because I don't know. Maybe it is the Mondays. You know what? I'm going to stop trying to read full quotes. Here I am trying to give you guys as much information as possible, and I feel like it totally threw off my game today.
Hey,
But
I'll do the quotes from now on. I got you.
I love how Amy's just like, I can multitask. Obviously, you just need to look at the sidewalk as you're walking, right, left, whatever helps you get through there, Juan. I appreciate it. Again, this is the time. Let's throw up our handles, guys. If you can help us spread the word about Baseball Shangri LA, we would appreciate it. Follow us on the social media on at Twitter, X, at BB Shangri LA, on Instagram, Threads, and Twitch at Baseball Shangri LA. Make sure you're subscribed to the podcast. Make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel, whether you like to listen to the audio portion of the show or you like to watch us. Leave us comments. We'd love to go ahead and engage with you. This has been another episode of Baseball Shangri LA. She is Amy Cuevas, and I am Juan Ramirez, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for hanging
Goodbye,
out with us.
everybody.